Hey, my name's Eric. I'm making a game. I'm always making a game. Always making a game. At least for the last 4 years, and probably for the next 2, and who knows after that. So the game that I just got done making is called the Godkiller Chapter 1. The game I'm working on now is called the Godkiller Chapter 2, and I've been told by not less than 3 people that it's a terrible title for the game, and on multiple counts. It's called the Godkiller, and that sounds like edgy, kind of scary, like, I don't know, like it's not matching right to a contemplative puzzle solving sort of person. Another thing I've heard is that the Chapter 1 episodic implication makes people think that they won't get a full game, that they won't get a full story. I don't know. At this point, I'm going to stick to my guns. I think there's probably some good criticism on the name there, but I made my bed and I'm going to lie in it. So I'm not good at naming games, apparently. Let me do a demo. It's going to be an odd demo, okay? So I'm trying to find the right balance between playing and experimenting and then getting focused. And I think the way it gets done is you have a little bit of just try some things period, which is going to be part of this year. And then at some point you decide what the thing is you're going to build, and you don't deviate from that. At least not in any substantial way. I'm not a fan of people that say the cement never dries, that you keep on making changes as inspiration hits. I figure that's how you come up with something like Duke Nukem Forever, not releasing after a decade or whatever it was. But this is the point in time where I try things. And I'm going to show you something I'm trying. Okay? So let's switch over to... Bam. Okay. So you can see the screen here. And it has nothing to do with the Godkiller, except it is... it's testing out an idea. So there's this new, well, relatively new speech recognition library called Vosk, which is built on some models from another project called Caldi. And I was pleased to find that it does a really good job of speech recognition, like as good as, in my opinion, Google or like Alexa or any of that stuff where it goes off to a server and then comes back with information. This is totally offline though, and it's open source, which is excellent. It's really excellent. So let me give you a demo. This is kind of a dumb little game where it's like slides are brought up, and then you have to, or me in this case, I have to read. I have to read the text, but hit certain keywords that are in yellow. And when all of the keywords that are in yellow are hit, it'll go on to the next slide. So it's like PowerPoint, but with speech recognition saying when you go on to the next slide. So this is a little bit stupid humor, but here it goes. So I'll improvise a bit and pretend I'm like somebody giving a presentation on this idea, which is kind of bad. Okay, hello everyone. Now let's unmute. Okay, now the speech recognition is live. My presentation here is about babies. We all know babies. Babies are important. What do babies want? They want toys. They definitely want toys. But the thing is, toys are expensive. You could say, well, one toy is cheap. One toy is plenty cheap, but 5 toys also, you might say that's not too bad, but when you get up to like you're buying 10 toys for a baby, that gets pricey. And babies, they always need toys. Why do they need toys? Well, they'll get bored if they don't have toys. So my solution is we just give the babies rocks. We give them as many rocks as they need. And what do they do with the rocks? Honestly, that's not our problem. So when you're thinking about rocks and you think about where do we get rocks today, like in the present, well, you can go into a cave, you can go inside caves, you can find rocks there. You can go down to your Home Depot, your Lowe's, any home improvement store, and you will find a delightful selection of rocks there as well. Of course, those are expensive rocks, they're not free. If you're feeling lazy, just go take a look in your neighbor's yard and see if there's any rocks that are good. But in the future, how are we going to get rocks so that we can give them to the babies? I say the most efficient way is have someone throw them through your window, but the rock will land on a rock pillow that you place there. So then you're worried about maybe your window getting broken by the delivery person who's throwing a rock through your window. What you do is you get our Window Rocks mobile app, and it's going to alert you. It's going to tell you when to open your window, and it's going to tell you up to 15 seconds in advance, so you never have to worry about your windows getting broken when rocks are delivered to you. What does the future look like for rocks? And I say it looks like Rock 2.0, and we've been developing Rock 2.0 for a long time now, and I'm not ready to tell you everything about Rock 2.0, but I can tell you that when you compare it to legacy rocks, it's much better. It's much, much better. Legacy rocks, they exist in the physical world. These are completely digital, virtual rocks. So we talk about rocks for babies, but is that the end of it? No, we're going to expand the market. We're going to get teenagers rocks, because sometimes they need rocks, and sometimes adults, they want to have some sexy time with rocks. We're going to provide that through different distribution channels. And there's a lot of people that are afraid to be by themselves, and we can give them rocks, and they won't be lonely anymore. They will not be lonely. Okay. So what you saw there was, in my mind, some pretty good speech recognition. I didn't click anything to say, oh, hey, Z. Oh, I just noticed I got some people chatting. Hey, Frightlaw. Let's see. Frightlaw says, in which frameworks web API, ADM, backend are done by most IT companies? I'm going to answer that in a second. But concluding my thought in this demo, okay, so I'm interested in bringing speech recognition into the game. I'm not sure exactly how it'll happen yet. The thing that I'd really love is if you could actually talk to characters that were in the game with you. You could have like a discussion with Billy, for example. So that's what I'm playing at. We'll see if I can find a good solution that makes it into the game. All right, let me answer Frightlaw's question. So you asked about backend. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. One thing is you want to be thinking about your web app as being a single page app and having all of the logic there. On the back end, you don't need anything that serves a web page other than a standard HTTP server that just serves static content. On the back end, you've just got web services. So you could you could use basically whatever you're comfortable with, whatever's easy for the web services. I don't know if your goals are around like learning it, if your goals are being very marketable, like you're trying to get a job. If you're learning it, I'd pick something that was in a language that was what you enjoyed and use that. But you could do PHP, for example, for services. Okay, you didn't like React and JavaScript. Okay, so I guess it depends what your ambitions are. If you want to be a web developer in the industry, React is still, I think it's the best thing to to learn right now. But if you want to learn and React is a little bit difficult to learn, then you might try something else. Angular in some ways is easier to get started with than React, but it's not as popular, so it's not as good for getting a job with. Yeah, I like React a lot, but I know people's opinions can differ. If you want to go back to the basics, you could do like jQuery. I don't know. I can't honestly recommend someone use jQuery, but yeah, I don't know. What is it about React that you don't like? There you go. Ruby on Rails, another option. I have not used ASP.NET. What I have used is the old active server pages, and I've done a lot of C# coding. Well, yeah, I don't know enough about ASP.NET to say much good or bad about it, but it also depends a lot too, whether you're doing it for a personal project, whether you're doing it for marketability and then industry. So if you were trying to be marketable, I'd pick a newer thing that was very popular, and that would be React. But yeah, okay, Sporkbard, hey, what are we coding? So I'm not going to stay online and code. I'm just here to give a quick demo and then talk to anybody who wants to talk for a little bit. But if you're interested in code, the code that I've been working on for this speech recognition thing is it's React based, and I've got just some stuff that matches against certain key phrases. So I use React with TypeScript. I like the newer syntax of React that uses hooks. And yeah, so I've been doing a little bit of work there, but this is all like a satellite effort to the game that's in Unity, which I'll open up. It takes a little while. Yeah, databases, I mean, that's a whole nother story too, but I'll say one thing about web apps that a lot of people forget they can do is, if you're making a web app, it doesn't need to be networked with a server necessarily. Like, you can have all of your data in local storage on the browser. So if you're making like a web app that honestly is just sort of like a single person app, it's possible to write the whole thing without any REST APIs or backend services. I will show a quick demo of the game that has been released recently. The Godkiller Chapter 1. Local storage and its big brother, indexed DB. Type in there. And then there's a library use on top of IndexedDB called Local Forage. Anyways, that's what the game looks like for anyone who might be interested in that. So in the game, there's a lot of conversations with different characters, and I'm interested in using speech recognition for those conversations. And I know it's possible because I just did a little proof of concept on the web with it, and the same library in question, the Vosk library, is available inside of Unity as well. It's actually native to C#, so it's pretty good candidate to use inside of Unity. So yeah, anyways, that was my quick little demo. I'm gonna take off here. One last thing I'll talk about a little bit. I'm having a hard time making a decision on open sourcing the game. I would like to open source the game. The trouble is there's all these third-party assets. So in order for me to take the source code from the game and make it available in some way somebody could build it, I would have to either get some kind of legal permission to distribute a part of the third-party asset that would allow it to work, or I have to strip out the use of the third-party assets. And some of them are a little bit tough, like Pro Builder is, that's a free one. That one's maybe not so bad because people can install it. Let me see. I don't know. There's some assets in here though, like the hands that make up the God character. Oh, you're saying Megascript grab the assets from somebody's normal installation. So if somebody's already got the game and they've installed it, then the script maybe copies over the assets or from the web. So it's a little bit tricky. I feel like I might end up doing a lot of work, and I put the source code out there and nobody actually wants to use it, and that's the thing that gives me pause. What I might do is find a very quick way to open source it, which doesn't guarantee any kind of buildable thing, and then just leave it there and see if I get some interest on it. And if there is interest on it, then I'll do some extra work to clean it up and make it a nicer open source project. But I hate the idea that I could spend, like maybe 2 months of work trying to get it ready for open source, and then like there's just no interest in anybody doing anything with it. I also hate the idea that somebody might go to all the trouble to make a mod of the game when they could have just built something from open source too. The whole thing where you kind of decompile it and pull out all the assets and everything in order to make a mod doesn't appeal to me too much. That sounds like work too, though. Is that could be like, again, that could be like some months of work, and then if there isn't really interest in it, then I've just done a couple of months of work for no good reason. So On the other hand, if you don't put anything out there, then you'll never have a chance to see if people are interested, because people tend not to, around open source, they tend not to express a great interest initially. They'll tend to go look at the project, try it out, and maybe they get excited about it. So so that's a question I could probably answer pretty well. The question is, do you remember how from noob level you achieved mid to senior level? So I started coding when I was 13, and my first job was when I was 20, writing code for like a database and then like a satellite company, like back in the early 90s. Basically the whole thing is you couldn't tear me away from a computer. If I'm on a camping trip, I'm thinking I want to be back home writing code on my computer. So that's the kind of person I am, and it hasn't changed for a number of decades. So that's like the main thing that made me learn, is I just had so much interest in it. Some people have different learning styles though. For me, I always had some kind of project, a side project or something I wanted to do. And that would push me to learn things. Other people, they really prefer like a classroom setting, or they prefer a tutorial that they go through and maybe code along the way to match what the tutorial is expecting. But you just have to spend a lot of time, and you have to figure out what motivates you to learn. Yeah, it is, but you will get to a limiting point. So modern programming is not about a single person working on their own on a project. Like, there are people like that out there in the industry, but they're typically less valuable than the people that work inside of a team or company and are part of all the other aspects of development that really don't have to do as much with writing code. Things like somebody says to you, your boss says to you, code up this new feature, please. Well, you don't just get to decide exactly how to code up the feature. There's usually some kind of specification or requirements you got to read. Maybe they're unclear, so you go talk to other people on your team or your product manager. So it's modern software development is really, it is a team sport. So I do think you will hit a limitation if you only code solo. You'll get better at the particulars of the language. You'll not get better at the group dynamics that are needed to create software in like a modern workplace. Also, the more high-level concepts, they're hard to get training to understand them. You need experience, because a lot of times it's a waiting problem. Here's what I mean by that. So suppose you were going to make a decision as simple as, should I take this code and refactor it into a new class? You'll have like a sense that it's going to take a certain amount of time. It's going to add some simplicity to your code. It's going to make it easier for other people to come and read it. Maybe it'll be easier for you to read it 6 months from now. You'll have all these little pieces of information, and each one could be weighted a little bit differently. about whether it's a good decision to refactor that code to a new class or not. And that waiting that allows you to make decisions correctly, or at least over time in a way that gives good results, is something that you pick up by just doing a set of tasks again and again and again under different circumstances, and picking up kind of like a neural network style model of when to do things. Yeah, and then Spork said something good, which was you can always look at open source projects. That's a case where you can get into the team environment if it's the right project and learn some things from other people there. And also learn like some human things about, you know, how to contribute code to a project where there's egos involved and people have a sense of ownership over some things. Maybe they don't trust you. You have to prove your value to those people. Treading carefully at first, and after a while they trust you to do things. So there's valuable lessons to learn there that you can get from an open source project. But don't try to get to the top of the mountain being a solo coder. That's my one piece of advice I'd impart. Yeah, so there's too many ways to do things, it seems. I mean, you can pick your stack and stick to it and kind of specialize in that stack. You don't have to learn every possible way to make a web app. So I mean, again, it comes down to like marketability, if that's your goal. If I just want to get a job in the future, I think I would just pick a popular stack and then just learn it. Yeah. I would not jump around in like different stacks. Like if you're doing something in Angular and you're starting to get kind of good at Angular, like there's no reason to jump over to React, you know, and learn that too. It doesn't help you, particularly when you're newer, to learn a bunch of extra languages. Yeah. After a while too, you'll probably get a sense of detachment from particular stacks. Meaning, if you get more mature and after a while you've had experience in different stacks, it just doesn't matter that much to you what the stack is. At least a lot of the people I work with and myself, after they spent like 10 years plus trying out different languages and stuff, they're all just a tool. And you could say you can pick the right tool for the job. You can also say that a lot of times it just doesn't matter that much. I don't get like a new shiny feeling learning a new framework. Like it really has to do something very cool to blow me away before I'm excited about it. To me, it just feels like it's another language. It's what everyone's using now. It's maybe got a few new advantages to it. So I'll learn this one. And I always expect I'll be learning some new language about once every 3 years, something like that. But if you're just starting out, I would limit your stack. Just pick something. If you want to do ASP.NET, just focus on that for a bit. A year or so. Feel like you know how to write a web app in it. Feel comfortable in it. And then you can switch to a different stack. But I wouldn't jump around a lot when you are starting out. Unless you're just trying to figure out what you like, but there's a fair amount of value in just picking something and just sticking with it for a little bit, half a year to a year, then just get okay at that. Yeah. And Spork's advice is quite good as far as just deciding, which framework to go for. Just look at job listings. What are they asking for? I can tell you right now, most of them are asking for React. Not all of them. But yeah, there's a recent survey, and the clear winner was React, and it doesn't have a downward trend on it. But you could be more influenced by, what's easier or more enjoyable to you. But yeah, just pick one, stick with it for a bit. All right. It was cool talking to you. I'm going to take off pretty quick here. You too, Sport. Fright Law. I'll catch you later. Stopping the stream. Stopping the stream. Stopping the stream right